you spell worst? BEST, because that's the only thing that I'm worried about. Sometimes you just gotta move like there is no worst case scenario. Because here's the truth: the worst case scenario is ruining your life. The worst case scenario is the reason why you keep finding yourself in the worst case scenario. I remember growing up, my dad, he literally would always say, "What's the worst case scenario?" And I was like, damn, the worst case scenario is this, is that. Now I'm like literally going through my head, trying to list out all of the worst case scenarios, all of the things that could go wrong in the scenario. You know what that usually leads to? It usually leads to anxiety, stress, and delayed decision making. And sometimes, not even delayed decision making, sometimes the decision ends up being not to do the thing that you wanted to do because you've already convinced yourself that the worst case scenario outweighs the best case scenario. What would you do? What decisions would you make in your life if there was no worst case scenario? How would you show up in the world if the worst case scenario was not an option? How would you feel going throughout life and making decisions and trusting your ability to make decisions if the worst case scenario did not exist in the dimension that you reside in? Would you be more confident in your decision making? Would you be more adventurous? Would you be more assertive? Would you be more eager? Would you be more excited and less anxious? Would you be more in the spirit of anticipation than stress? How do you think that would feel for you? How would you think that would work out for you? I challenge you to ask yourself, what is the best case scenario at every turn? Every time you decide on doing anything that you feel like you have to think twice about, ask yourself, what is the best case scenario? Because here's the thing, sometimes you got to go through life like the worst case scenario don't even exist in my scenario. Not in this paradigm. I don't even know how to spell worst. How do you spell worst? BEST, because that's the only thing that I'm worried about. That's the only thing that I desire. Because when you focus on the worst case scenario, you start triggering anxiety. You start triggering stress. You start triggering the idea that the worst case scenario will actually take place. And then what's going to happen? You're not going to take action because you've allowed the worst case scenario to occupy most of the options when it comes to this scenario playing out. As far as I'm concerned, the only question that we should ever be asking is, what is the best that can happen? What is the best outcome? Because when you start thinking about the best outcome, when you start thinking about what's the best that can happen, then you will start gaining the confidence, the drive, the willpower, the strength, the courage, the excitement to take action towards the best case scenario, because that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to the best case scenario. We're trying to get to our best lives. We're trying to live our best lives. Like, that's what we're doing. Okay, that's what we're doing. Therefore, the worst case scenario is not my business. It's not my business. It's the reason why I personally dealt with a lot of anxiety, because all I could think about, I could hear my dad's voice in the back of my head, like, what's the worst case scenario? And then when the worst case would happen, his favorite thing to do is be like, I don't want to say I told you so, but basically you just said it. Basically you just said I told you so by saying I ain't want to say I told you so, but fuck all that. I'm only worried about the best case scenario. And the best case scenario, the best that can happen, that's my business. That's all I desire. That's all I want to set my focus on. Because whatever you set your focus on is whatever your sights are set on, That's what your attraction, your frequency, your vibration is set on. And again, the universe does not know the difference. All the universe knows is what you're focusing on. And all you're focusing on is what the universe is going to give you more of. So if your focus is on the worst case scenario, the universe is going to conspire in your favor to give you everything that you desire. And as far as the universe is concerned, what you desire is what you're focused on. So focus on the best case scenario. Focus on what's the best that can happen. Right now, I've had so much going on in my life where it has forced me to surrender to the point where I have to just say, you know what? What's the best outcome? And maybe that best outcome is the reason why God forced me to surrender, because if I did not surrender and I took action towards the things that I thought that I wanted for me, it would have took me there. Meanwhile, the best case scenario is over there, and me surrendering and God interfering is pushing me that way. And by the time I get there, I realize, actually, this is what I wanted. This is where I wanted to be. So when you find yourself in the spirit of surrender, because nothing is going the way that you thought, ask yourself, what's the best that can happen? If you made it to this far in the video, I challenge you to comment below, what's the best that can happen? Actually comment, the worst case scenario is not my business. If you made it this far, comment below, the worst case scenario is not my business. That's not my business. That ain't got nothing to do with me. That ain't got nothing to do with me or where I'm going, because I'm headed towards the best outcome. This video is brought to you by the Spiritual Hoochie Sanctuary, where we blend the realms of spirituality and sensuality. I invite you to join us over at the Spiritual Hoochie Sanctuary membership on Patreon, where the minimum tier is $5.55. You can join us in the WhatsApp group chat where all the spiritual hoochies are, where we uplift each other, empower each other, and check in with each other. We have monthly spiritual hoochie hangouts where we get on Zoom and we catch up, we talk, we uplift, we empower, we support one another, and so many other offerings exist over there. I can't wait to meet you there. As always, I am Divine, the spiritual hoochie in charge, your favorite sensual spiritual rap goddess. I'll see you in the next one.